Well, how you guys doing today?
Super.
I am large.
You're large. Gavin's got like a Jesus thing going on right now. A Jesus thing with maps of all the places he needs to walk and save people.
You want to see a lake turn to gold? Ah.
Oh. All right. You're doing large, huh, Paul?
Fucking A.
Fucking A. All right.
Hey, when are you guys gonna be here?
I don't know. I want to come on the 6th. Tuesday wants to come on the 10th. Really comes down to when we get our camper finished.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's in a morphing state. I take it that your can is green.
It is. That's cool.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, so it's I better start broadcasting. We'll continue.
Here comes our peeps. Hey, you guys got to make sure to type into the chat thing, so we can make fun of the things you type.
Paul just likes to know people are alive and not just listening in the background. I do that a lot when there's webinars and stuff. I listen while I work on other things. I'm a bad webinar listener. I do that a lot when there's webinar. All right, cool.
Mark Harris is alive and well in Southern California.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Permaculture Smackdown. Paul Wheaton, Josiah Wallingford, and Davin Hoyt for a special guest appearance. And what do we got here? People are already chatting away. Hey, if you're a PermaEthos customer or a Paul Wheaton Patreon, send us an email if you want an invitation. Send me an email if you want an invitation to the show where you can like chat with us and we can respond to you directly. On the Facebook Live thing, I can't always check the chat stuff on that, so the folks that are inside the Zoom program get first attention.
My Patreon peeps, like once they get in, there's like something that's these posts. There's private posts, and then they can like it says right in there, like here's the link that you use during the Smackdown, and it gets you right into the Fancy Pants channel.
All right.
It's already there, but yeah, if you feel like you couldn't find it or something, I guess, then
yeah. We send out emails every once in a while, just reminding people that you can join in if you want to listen to us blabber on about green cans and stuff. Dude, that is really crazy. All right. What's going on, man? You're getting ready. Jamboree starting here in, what, a week? Not
so
even. 3 days.
Donkey is here now. So this is Kirk Mobert. He runs the only other rocket mass heater bulletin board that I know of. And it gets a lot of traffic. But he's here now, and he's deciding the design. So he's going to build, like, we got 3 parts. The Jamboree is in 3 parts. And so he's got a big thing that he's doing for all 3 parts. But for part 1, he's going to do a tiny house rocket mass heater. And the idea is to put it into the Love Shack. Although a bunch of stuff is happening, and there's like a 40% chance that we're going to take Peter Vandenberg's creation that's currently in the Red Cabin and move it to the Love Shack. And then Kirk will build the rocket mass heater, the tiny house rocket mass heater in the Red Cabin.
All right.
So, but Kirk's here now. Ernie and Erica will probably arrive tonight. Chris McClellan, also known as Uncle Mud, I think arrives tomorrow. Peter Vandenberg will get here on Thursday from the Netherlands.
Maybe I should just come like tomorrow. Fuck it. Uh, well, all right. So the delay. So Paul was just asking, when are you getting here? And my answer was, no. So I got a camper, a truck camper, and it's a Bigfoot, which means it's super well insulated. They make them in Canada. They just started making them in America, but they're really good truck campers. Anyway, so I got one of those, a used one, and from like it's almost as old as me, 1986, I think, but it's in great shape because the guy, he took a hunting every year for a couple days. The rest of the time it was covered, and he was a mechanic. He rebuilt muscle cars and stuff. Anyway, so it does need some work though, and so we're doing some work to it because my trip doesn't end after the Jamboree. My trip continues on until the spring. I am going to, after the Jamboree, I am going to Oregon, and then California, then New Mexico, then Arizona, and possibly Texas. So,
Woo, Texas!
yeah. So if you guys want to see me on that trip or want me to come check out, we're filming. So if you want me to come check out your farm or anything, send me an email and I'll stop by and see what's going on. My intent is to go to as many farms as I can, permaculture farms, intentional communities, and also prepper kind of communities and prepper oriented businesses, things like that, and to film them. So we'll be filming a documentary of just our journey. And then we'll also be filming interviews with each of the owners of the farm or the leaders of the community or members of the community as a second filming thing. And then the third filming thing is every place we stop, we're asking them to teach something. So that it can just be a small, like a micro course. We're not doing big courses, but maybe a couple of hours, you just teach something. And then we're taking all of that video and providing to the Thrive-Thru and Permethos customers. So, yeah. So anyway, I got to get that thing ready for that huge journey, and we've been working on it, and it's almost done. So there you go, Paul.
Well, this place is going to be pretty packed. The Jamboree is 3 parts. Part 1 starts on Friday at dusk, which I think right now is about 6:30, and then it goes until Sunday afternoon at 5. And then part 2 is the Innovators event. And that's Monday morning through Friday afternoon of the following week. And we don't know what's going to be built during that time. So we wait and see. And then part 3 is 4 days. So it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And that's got several big things happening. And so, in fact, we're in full scramble mode trying to prepare for part 3. So Allerton Abbey is getting a bunch of changes. In fact, everybody's up there right now working on the straw bale exterior wall. So Davin, you were there and you saw those structural things that need to be done, and those are all done. So we're looking good. Putting the straw bale wall back in. We also made a skiddable canning kitchen. Kirk Mobert is in charge of teaching a bit for part 3 that's going to involve the skiddable canning kitchen. And he's doing a lot of new design work in that space. But the skiddable structure is almost complete now. So it's looking pretty good.
Who's building it? What are you building out of? What tell us more about it.
The skiddable canning kitchen?
Yes.
Okay, so...
First of all, why would I want a skiddable canning kitchen, Paul?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much canning you've done, but if you go to a standard stove to do your canning, it's kind of like a standard conventional home stove can barely get things hot enough to do canning.
At least not quick, not very quick either. It takes a long time.
It takes a while. It's slow and it just doesn't. But you can do it.
It's indoors, which really sucks, especially during the summer.
Just start to cook. Oh man. And so the other thing is it's like when you're canning, if you're going to can up 400 jars of something, it's like that your little stove just isn't going to cut it. It's like your job is now a 4-day long job. It just, so it's like, with the skiddable canning kitchen, what we want to do is make it so that you could can stuff like 4 times faster. And you're doing it with wood, with rocket technology wood stuff. The other thing is that you'll notice that a lot of the interesting structures that we have at base camp are on skids. And so the thing is, like right now, people are like, hey, I want to teach a workshop at Wheaton Labs. I mean, you said that to me. I want to have a workshop at Wheaton Labs. I want to, take care of everything. I just need to use the facilities there. Because we've got, I think, a pretty fucking awesome classroom. And we've got a lot of pretty cool infrastructure that goes with it. And granted, we're still under construction, but I don't know. It's cooler than what you can find at a lot of different places. And so it's kind of like, we want these kinds of events to be happening up at the lab and not at base camp. But it's like, well, base camp has like, electricity.
It's got all the amenities.
Yeah, it's got all the normal stuff that people want. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, we're under construction. We're building that stuff up at the lab still. And we'll get there at the lab. But when the time comes that we move up to the lab and do it, we can just move all these skiddable structures right on up there. And
awesome.
Whoa, what happened? What are we doing? Oh,
I was just showing some outdoor canning kitchens just to get an idea of what I'll be looking at when I arrive. Which will be nothing like these, of course, but
right.
Just so the audience gets an idea. So what's awesome about it, or what I really like about canning kitchens, is they do this at churches a lot. So churches will have, this is what's nice about the church communities, is that they get together and they will do things like canning. All of the people will get together and can for a day and get all their goods together and can. And I also like the idea of having this portable canning. I think I would want it on wheels, like a trailer. But that's because I'm thinking like neighborhoods. If I was living in a neighborhood and I happened to like my neighbors and wanted to start building community with those neighbors, it might be an awesome idea to have one on a trailer. You could just haul to whoever's house you want everybody to gather at to do the canning and just have everybody can. It'd be a good bonding for the neighborhood kind of experience.
Well, if it's on wheels, there's a couple of issues. I mean, one is that the kitchen itself ends up being a little jiggly wiggly when you're in it and doing stuff. And the other thing is now you got to kind of step up into it. And so it's like, I mean, you can put some steps going up to it, but it's like, it's a bit higher up. So, whereas if it's on skids, it's a little closer to the ground.
Yeah, it's just like walking out of a normal building.
So we've got like a flatbed trailer, and what we normally do is that we move the skiddable thing onto the flatbed trailer, then we can move it around wherever we want, just like what you're talking about.
Right.
But then we can like do that for all of our stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's much easier.
Same with chicken processing. There's a lot of people out there that do this. They have a mobile chicken processing station, and they'll come to the farm and process all your chickens right there. That'd be cool to do for canning too, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Davin.
So, Paul, I wonder, where is the heating happening? Is it inside the mobile kitchen and then it runs with it and it's permanently installed, or is it that the kitchen's or the heating element is outside the kitchen and you pull the kitchen up to it?
The heating element is inside, and so the style of canning kitchen that we're doing, each of the pots will be kind of what's referred to as a Lorena style, and so this is where the pot, and there's going to be 2 different kinds of pots. One is going to be for the canning, the actual canning. The other is for heating up your goop that's going to go inside the jars, right? So like maybe applesauce or something. So these will be big pots, and they sit down inside this. They go into a hole. The pot will fit rather perfectly into a hole. So now that it'll be heated on the bottom as well as heated on the sides. But the fire will be inside the structure. And then it'll be the first one will get the hottest, the second one gets the next hottest, the next one after that gets the next hottest.
Is it a closed building or is it open on the sides?
Yes.
Both.
Does it look anything like the rendition that I did for you whenever you were starting the project?
What rendition?
I'd have to look at it. Yeah, can you pull it up real quick?
I can pull it up if I can figure out how to share screen.
Hit the green share screen button.
Did I share screen now?
I think.
Nope.
I
You
think
gotta you click that and then choose what you want to share.
If I remember right, you made a
Are we here?
version. There it is. It is. It's a lot like that. It is a lot like that. Yeah. So yeah, I remember you sent a version, and then I wrote back and said, okay, here's some changes we need. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, this is what we're going with.
And then I shared the file with Fred.
And then there's going to be counters like the one that's in there on both sides.
Okay.
Notice how the weight of the counter is directly on top of one of the skids.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, so right now, I mean, for Donkey, he's done a lot of stuff that is, like he likes using Adobe bricks and cob. And he's built some canning kitchens before. And so, but, you know, doing it inside of a skiddable structure is a challenge. So he's redesigning. And he's got until part 3 of the Jamboree to figure out exactly what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, I don't remember we mentioned this last time, but we've got like a special right now for part 2 and 3 of the event. I can't remember what the price is, but it's like we made it super cheap. And then, and so part 2 is the Innovators event. We don't know what they're going to innovate. Part 3 is going to be the canning kitchen, and it's going to be up at Allerton Abbey. They're going to build a rocket cook stove and oven. And then Uncle Mud, that's Chris McClellan, is going to be building right now we're saying it's the new Ring of Fire, because as you both know, at the event this year, we disassembled Matt Walker's Ring of Fire. And but he built that outside, and it did not do well with the rain. So we've got the last cell of the berm shed cleared out and ready for Chris McClellan to come up with his magic recipe for basically a very similar thing, but under a structure. So, I mean, as you guys know, one of the things that I put to the PDC folks this year was, oh, there it is, $700 for part 2 and part 3. So that's a total of, let's see, 5 days plus 9 days of rocket mass heater stuff for $700. So less than $100 a day, and we're feeding you. And you both are familiar with Caitlin, right? She'll be here cooking.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful cook.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Davin, how are those pictures you took? Those are awesome. You took a picture a day or something of all the meals?
And then I tiled them and posted them to Permy. So if you want to find that, it's in the ATC PDC of 2017 forum.
Yeah.
You could
So-
find it.
I don't know. I think it's a pretty cheap price for the event, and
Yeah.
for the stuff that'll be getting covered.
I spend almost $200 a week on groceries. It's like there's $200 off the price right there.
Yeah.
Ben says, ever wonder why it's called canning and not jarring?
That's well. I mean, it's because it's you know, so much of this stuff is done in like tin cans. Although I do think there's kind of a fascinating change that's happened in the world of the tin cans. Is a lot of the same stuff is now being done in like what looks like a Mylar packet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is relatively fascinating.
You're talking about vacuum sealing, right?
No, canning. I mean, it's like because you've got to. Part of canning is that you got to heat it up to a certain temperature,
Yeah.
and then it seals. Now, and then another aspect of it is like for certain things we got to do pressure canning, which will take it up to a temperature that's higher than 212 degrees. And so, but anyway, I've just seen some stuff where they're doing it with these Mylar packs, but.
Pressure canning with Mylar bars. I'll be damned.
But we use so Ben obviously uses jars. We use jars. I've never done it with anything but jars myself.
Yeah, me too.
But I've got a lot of jars under my belt.
I've done vacuum sealing cans.
Okay.
Where people, instead of having to use bags, you can, or not cans, jars.
Of jars, yeah, where you kind of stick a thing on the top and it sucks the air out, and so it seals.
Yep. Yeah.
Have you done the thing where a great food preservation technique is like with a 5-gallon bucket, and then what you do is you get like one of those little Votive candles, those little tiny candles.
Yeah.
And then you'll light it, and then like you'll have wheat in your bucket. And then you'll set the candle in the bucket, and then you'll take the lid, and then you'll stick a little bit of foil on the top of the lid, and then you'll put the lid on the bucket.
Yeah.
And you'll seal it. And then what will happen is that the candle will burn out all of the oxygen, replacing it with carbon dioxide. And then when all the oxygen's gone, then the candle goes out.
Right.
And then there's no oxygen. So if there's any bugs in your wheat, they're going to die because there's no oxygen. And if there's any other kind of things that might lead to your wheat rotting, they're going to die. Everything dies except the wheat.
Say again how you're sealing the top. That you put it in and seal it down. What's the styrofoam for? Or the tin foil?
Okay, so when you've got a 5-gallon bucket,
Yeah.
it has a lid, right? And
Absolutely.
you know how that lid seals.
Yeah.
You put it down, and it's a bitch to open up again, right?
Right.
Okay. So that part you don't need to know. But, I mean, right? Because you've experienced it before. That part you know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what you're asking about is why the foil? What's up with the foil?
Yeah.
Now, let's imagine that don't put foil in there. Now, you got a candle inside of your bucket.
Oh, you put the candle on top of the foil is what you're saying.
Okay, let me try this one more time.
Okay.
You got a candle sitting on top of the wheat in your bucket, and then you put a plastic lid on your bucket. What's going to happen?
Well, it depends on how full the bucket is.
So let's say the flame can touch the plastic lid.
Oh, it's just going to melt the bucket.
So I imagine that's like not what
I
you're
see what
after.
you're saying. Right.
So you put a little foil on the lid, and then you put the lid on, and then if the flame hits the foil, the lid doesn't melt.
You're just taping the foil onto the top of the lid?
Yeah.
Underneath the lid?
Yeah.
You're just sticking the candle vertically into the material that's inside of it?
Well, you know what I mean by a votive candle, right?
Yeah,
They're just
I'll pull it
there's a
up.
tiny
Those
little...
little tiny ones in the trays?
Yeah, they have their own little tray.
Yeah.
And so you just sit that on top of, the wheat.
They're at Walmart for like 2 cents each. And they come in a big box. Like, okay, 10 cents. 10, whatever.
Okay, all right.
Oh, those are $1 each. Anyway, there they are. Don't buy them for $1 each. They come. Well, of course, when I'm thinking of it, like Walmart, they have metal on the bottom. They sit in metal, not glass.
Right, yeah, they've got a little tiny,
But
metal.
of course, you could get shot glasses, make your own candles.
Sure.
Sure. Anyway. Yay.
I mean,
All right.
Yeah, maybe I'm using the wrong word. I'm saying votive, but all I know is it's like this. Yeah, it's a little teeny tiny thing, and a little tiny metal thing. Oh, look at that! There we go.
Food!
That's our. And so is that from the ATC?
This is from Caitlin's. Yeah, ATC.
That's good, yeah.
Well, you were all right. So during the ATC, people were going, "What is this guy doing?" Because every time he'd get food, he'd go out onto the sand, put it on the sand, take a picture. So he's taking pictures of good food, so everybody can see it.
I was pretty disciplined. I took those pictures before I started eating. Every day.
So awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, Pascal says it's tea light candles.
Oh, tea light candles. Okay, that's what it is. All right. So, and you can get them with beeswax. That's what I do. But, all right. So, we were talking about canning. We were talking about the canning kitchen. We're talking about, the big thing that I said at the PDC when you guys were here is I said, one of the things from last year's PDC that I thought was a really good point is that somebody said that they wanted more and they wanted less. And it's like...
You wanted more for less? Is that what they meant?
No. So basically so here's what I heard. They said they wanted more and they wanted less. And a lot of people were like making the face that you're making right now. But I understood. And so here's what I hear. Is that it's like you get to the end of 2 weeks of a PDC and you are exhausted.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, shit. We'd start every day at 7 a.m. and finish every day at 9 p.m. You're just spent. And so you want less. I am beat. I'm exhausted. So you want less. And at the same time, it's like, okay, that was fucking awesome. I want more. And so then, so the person said they wanted more and they wanted less. And so here is what I've decided to do to try, or the possible solution to have that. And the thing is to have, it's like, you'll notice during the PDC this year, then we had like these half-hour long breaks, right? So instead of having like a 10-minute break, like, okay, everybody go pee, all right? Here's your little bio break in the middle of the day, go pee. So instead, it's a half-hour long break. And what we tried to do is set up these places where you could go and hang out. I mean, you could hang out in the classroom. You could hang out, we set up those little canopy things, those tenty-like things, with a bunch of chairs.
Which a lot of people hung out in there. Yeah.
And so then, but we tried to set up places where people could kind of stand and visit or sit and visit or whatever.
Talk about what they just learned.
Sure, talk about what they just learned. So hopefully it's not so overwhelming. And at the same time, you actually get more, I think, from these little visits. And of course, let's not forget that at every meal, you sit at those round tables where everybody can kind of exchange.
Right.
So I kind of feel like we've did a little bit of that. And I want to do more of that. I want to do more, less, and more. And so then that last little, I mean, you've seen the berm shed. And there's like a berm shed cell right next to the classroom door, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of like we're going to overhaul that to be like a place where you can hang out and visit and stuff.
Ooh, I don't think I'd want to hang out in there.
Why not?
Just because of the structure. It's just a little scary for me to be hanging out in. I don't mind tools being in there and going and getting tools, but I don't think I want to be hanging out in there for quite a while.
Really? And so,
I can imagine a bunch of people in there, maybe having a couple drinks, maybe not, and like leaning on rafters, and I don't know.
I think this
I'm sure it'd be fine.
Solid. Gavin, you're an architect. Did it seem sound to you?
Did it seem sound to me? Yes. But there was a time 2.5 years ago whenever I visited and y'all were making the structure, and I pointed out a few things, and those things have changed since then. Yeah. I wanted to validate the bit of like, if you go to Wheaton Labs, you better be well rested and rest yourself during the time period that you're able to rest, because otherwise you'll start to get behind and then need to take a nap during the middle of class. Not in class, but like, go visit your tent for 2 hours and come back and say, hey, what did I miss?
I do think that there's some stuff where people get to visiting and they're up until past midnight. And then, of course, the whole day starts at 7 a.m.
Coffee.
Yeah,
where's the coffee?
I can't do this.
I need coffee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The PDC, ATC, the first thing people are going for is that coffee. They have a team that sets up the coffee before everybody else gets there.
We have mandatory teams that are set up initially, and then we have like this private structure that forms so that everybody's happy in the morning.
Yeah, it always ends up being someone's not doing it the way someone else likes, so that they just gotta take charge of it.
Okay.
And then somebody has to watch the water heat up in order for it to heat up.
Then you've got like the coffee police that are standing right there. Like somebody's like, "Oh, it's not ready yet. You can't have it," and that throws it off for the rest of us. And it's like the other person's like, "Come on, I just gotta have something right now. I just gotta have something, whatever." So Jocelyn and I and Caitlin have had a very long conversation because during the PDC there was all that stuff with the we had the Lutheran style percolator. 100 cups of coffee it would make, but it would take it an hour to make it. And you had to get the little straw into the little hole. And if you didn't, then it wouldn't make coffee, but it would look like it's making coffee. And so, it seems like every day for the first 10 days of the PDC, during my little morning thing, I'm checking in with the group, like, how'd the coffee turn out? Was it okay? And then it's like most of the time it's like, no, it was a different problem. Okay, then during the ATC, the Lutheran coffee maker died. Like it got overwhelmed with everybody's whatever, all at once. And it's like we haven't even had it that long. We bought it brand new 4 years ago.
It was a nice big one too, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then so we ordered in parts for it because the appropriate technology thing to do is not throw it away and get another one. The appropriate technology thing to do is to repair it. So we ordered the part came in, and that didn't work. And so it's like, so maybe somebody's going to show up during this event, during the Jamboree, and fix it. But we had a long debate with me and Jocelyn and Caitlin about let's not use the Lutheran style coffee maker anymore.
Let's make a rocket mass coffee maker.
Let's do it a different way. And Caitlin and Jocelyn were both adamant that style of coffee maker is the kind that they prefer because you have less mess. Because with all the other styles, you end up with a big mess because everybody just wants to come and get their coffee and bolt. Nobody wants to sit there at the coffee station and like tidy up. And so so it ends up being this big mess. The debate raged on after Caitlin left. Jocelyn was adamant. So I think we're in some middle ground now. And so what Jocelyn did just a few days ago, she bought a brand new Lutheran style coffee maker, but it's a 50-cup coffee. So in theory, it'll make the coffee in half an hour instead of an hour. Plus, there's a totally stainless steel percolator that's like a 12-cup coffee maker, plus a giant French press. And, the thing that I was pushing, and which I'm not sure if people liked it or not, but when the Lutheran-style coffee maker was out of commission, I pushed out the Cowgirl coffee, which, for those that have no idea what that is,
it's yummy.
I think it makes a damn good cup of coffee. And so basically all it is, we took a 4-cup measuring cup. And I'm looking around to see if I've got a cup here right now. I don't. So we took a 4-cup measuring cup. We put 4 scoops of coffee in it, put hot water in it. And then we have like one of those little tea filter things. And then you just pour the coffee through that. And so cowboy coffee goes in, cowgirl coffee comes out the bottom.
Yeah.
I think it works pretty damn good. And it's quick. It's real quick. And I think it's a great cup of coffee. I mean, basically, it's just a French press, but without the French press. In fact, it's entirely using stuff you probably already have in your kitchen. It's like 5 times easier to clean than a French press.
Yeah.
And then plus, it's like the 4-cup measuring cup. You know what you could do? You could use it as a 4-cup measuring cup. And the little filter thing, you know what you could do is you could use that to filter tea or whatever. It's already in. You probably already have it to filter tea.
Yeah.
And so then, we just got the hot water from the hot water urn, which was working fine.
Having to go out and buy those paper filters.
So and the paper, I don't want coffee with a bunch of plastic. So the drip coffee makers, that's a plastic festival. Mm-hmm. Where they make the water hot, that's plastic. Where it stores the water till it puts it into the carafe, that's plastic. And then of course where you run it through paper, and it's like, what's paper? It's wood and glue. glue. I love some glue in my coffee. And if you heat it up just right, it turns into formaldehyde. Poison. I love a little poison in my coffee. That makes for the best coffee. Then, once it gets past the paper, then it's hitting all that plastic again in that little cup. More plastic. Toxicity. Plastic? I can. Can you? And so it's like, so we're moving towards more glass and if we need to, some stainless steel.
One of our listeners chimed in. He says, I think if you feel like you want more, but you have done all you can, you are living life right. Yeah, I think that's right.
That's one of the ways to live your life. Do your best.
I think you're depressed as hell if you're not wanting more, other than striving to get it. Let's see here. Ben says, I worked a trail crew in the Mojave Desert with a guy who needed 60 ounces of coffee every morning. And so we rotated as breakfast makers, getting up a half hour early to heat up water in high wind to get him his drug. I wanted to ask him to get up early and roll me some doobies. Yeah, I think.
So I wonder if a thing like that, he could just have some sort of like a canned caffeine drink. You know, just here, deal with this. But whenever we're doing things throughout the day, we constantly need hot water and hot coffee. You know, fresh stuff.
A lot of people will drink coffee, but they will not drink those energy drinks. Like
yeah, but what about how many bottled coffees there are nowadays? Cold coffees, and then yerba mate is coming into the United States by force. I mean, they've got a great business going right now.
What's it called? Yerba mate?
Mate tea that has natural caffeine.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yep, a lot of kombucha happening. I'm seeing kombucha in regular grocery stores now. At our Super One, they have a kombucha kegs now.
I never liked that stuff. But I don't really like hooch. And it's a little hoochy. It's a little alcohol.
It actually has 1 or 2%.
Yeah, but it's like nothing. I think you could drink and drive kombucha all day.
Sure. But I think step one is that like if you like hooch, you know, you're like, hooch is so yummy. Then you're kind of like, oh, this kombucha is pretty good stuff. But if you're like me and like hooch is damn nasty, then that kombucha is damn nasty.
What? I've always had. Well, I guess I've always had like berry flavored kombuchas. I mean, I've never had like a hoppy kombucha.
It's not about the hops in this instance.
Yeah, it's about the alcohol. So, all right. Hey, this is supposed to be a permaculture. We've talked about rocket mass heater stuff a bit about this upcoming event. And so, Josiah, you're going to get here when you get here. You might miss out on part one, it sounds like. And part one's the one where most of the people are going to be here.
I'm not going to miss out. I'll get there.
What is Tuesday going to do during the event?
She's going to be filming.
Awesome.
And doing interviews and stuff.
What are you going to do with – no, I'm sorry. The traveling that you're going to do around the United States, you, Josiah, whenever it is that you have these interviews, one, class basically will be taught on video per farm you're thinking, right? Mm-hmm. What sort of treasures do you think that you're going to find?
Oh, man. Well, what I'm really interested in and is not very well documented, especially in a course type of atmosphere, is the communities, the living side, living on a farm with other people, living in intentional communities with other people. That kind of stuff I don't see a lot. Like I don't see many videos talking about the apprentices at a farm and how they're living, what they're doing, how they're working together and dealing with tensions, things like that. And so that's what I really, that's my personal, like, I just want to get that out to the world because it's I just don't see it. And I think it'd because I'm trying to push this whole community thing forward a great deal. I want more intentional communities in America than there are government buildings. That's what I would ultimately like to see. And so I got a lot of work ahead of me. But
does the post office count for a government building?
Yeah, it does.
Darn.
I've got some suggestions for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so somewhere outside of Spokane, there's a community, used to be there. I've never even visited it, but I've heard about it many times, called Tolstoy. And it's an anarchist community. But there's like, I think there's like 20 people living on this one plot of.
What kind of anarchist? So anarchy is like just a horrible word to use.
All I know is that was the word that they would use. And as I said, I've never visited it. So Tolstoy, Tolstoy.
Followers of Tolstoy.
So all I remember is that it's somewhere near Spokane. Huh. And I remember I had dinner one night with a guy that I believe was one of the founders, and he had lived there for like 20 years. And then he, like as I was visiting with him, he had now not been there for 1 year. And part of it is that he wanted to change something at his place, and apparently this group of anarchists told him that he wasn't allowed to. And he's like, what? That's not even, fuck you. I'm going to... So he brought in an excavator to make these changes. He rented an excavator to make these changes. And so somehow they evicted him. And I'm not exactly sure how that happens in an anarchist community, but there you go.
Well, someone that believes in anarchy, it doesn't believe that there shouldn't be any rules. It's just that there shouldn't be any rulers, right?
Hey, dude.
But
I have no fucking idea. You know what? It sounded to me like that sounds like like those two things don't go together. I don't, But
right.
Hey, at the same time, I heard something that Jack said once where it was like, there's 18 flavors of anarchy or something, and he got like flavor number 3, and I turned it off.
Yeah, we're more like often the anarchists that Jack and I are friends with is people that start out as minarchists, libertarians, then go to minarchists, and then finally switch over to full-on anarchists. But it's from that kind of flavor. Because now you got like this Antifa stuff going on where they're claiming to be anarchists and stuff. It's nuts. So the Tolstoyan movement is a social movement based on the philosophical and religious views of Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy. So I wonder if it has anything to do with that.
I don't know if the community is even there anymore.
I'll check it out. I'll look into it.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to, you're saying like that's the thing that you really want to check into. So of course you're going to look at ic.org.
Oh yeah. And well, all right. So on their map, like most of those communities no longer exist.
Okay.
Which is sad to see.
Very sad. Very.
Yeah. But that's why it's so important we film this stuff in the working communities so that we don't have the same failures or other people don't have the same failures when they're starting communities.
That would be really interesting to have like 20 years worth of documented, this one survived, this one didn't, this one's in this stage. That would be really interesting beyond, your filming within this next round.
Oh, yeah. And most communities we find out there that have been around a long time are religious communities. They're based off of a religion. Yeah.
When it comes to, that's another thing too, is like a great metric for a community is how many people have been there for more than 2 years. And for most communities, you'll get there and you'll find out that there'll be like 20 people living there, but nobody's been there more than 2 years.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, if you've got even 1 or 2 people that have been there longer than 2 years, that's a metric. And if you've got like 5 or 6 people that have been there like longer than 4 years, that's a huge positive, but very rare So then it's kind of like, all right. So I'm trying to like whip out some quick suggestions for you.
Okay.
And focusing on the ones that have been around a long, long time and are probably still around. So, and I'm trying to think of stuff that'll be on your route there. Now, another one is that when you get into the Seattle area, there's going to be Sangaya. Now, Sangaya, the people there have been there a long time, but it's mostly kind of like you go there and you buy a house that's part of Sangaya, you know, and so you got to kind of be into their thing that they're into, and they generally share a meal like once a week. And when they get together, and this is where the song part comes in, and you know, they literally hold hands and sing a song. But this is what they're into. This is what they really, really love. And these guys are a pretty tight-knit community. But it's easy to be a tight-knit community when you're not like interacting with everybody in your community, you know, 2 or more times per day, every day. So these guys, it's like they got their own house. Each one of them have their own house.
Mm-hmm.
And then they walk out the back door and walk down the little walk and past the garden over to the main house. And in the main house, they all get together once a week for a shared meal. And then they sing during their shared meal.
My favorite community I visited is actually really close to me, and I was telling you about it. I wanted you to come visit. They've been doing it for a long time, and they have a very similar setup. Everybody's got their own area, and then they come down to the common house for the weekly. I think they do it every day, but there's no like obligation to be there.
Yeah.
So
you're not feeling very people-y on that day, you just stay home. And if and I want to see some peeps, go on, man.
Or they also have a shared workshop. They have a giant workshop where everybody can go and work on things, build things, work together on things, and So that's probably going to be the last one I film if they'll allow me to film, and I hope they do because that is the coolest.
A lot of the really good communities, it's kind of like it's a closed thing, and they don't really want to get into advertising, and they don't need the publicity.
Here is the Permaburn Tour map. Now, so these are all the locations we want to hit. Now, we have another team. We're working on a Kickstarter. We haven't put it out yet, but we'll have another team doing the East Coast side. It's a family of 5 great people hitting the East Coast side while we hit the West Coast side. And then we might loop and do it again for each other. We'll swap and hit all the places we missed. So.
Okay. So what are the little, there's like a little image, a little hiker dude. What's the little hiker dude?
Hiker dudes are places I put in that I definitely wanted to go to, and question marks are other people have put in saying you should come check this out. And let's see, camping ones are like people that have put on the map saying come stay with us, like come hang out with us if you want just a place to stay on your drive or whatever.
Okay.
There you go. So I haven't broken it up. The hiker dudes have both intentional communities and farms on there. So it's not broken up yet into intentional verse.
All right.
Because intentional is not going to be very many. There just aren't that many.
I don't know, like, if you've started to put dates on any of these yet or not. But I'd like to suggest not putting dates on them, because you could get somewhere and be like, I'm going to stay here. I was going to stay here 2 hours, but now I think I want to stay at least 3 days. We
try to do that as much as possible to not do a commitment thing, but oftentimes, especially with very popular places, that's just not possible because they're so busy. They're like, I can schedule these 3 days for you, but I'm off after that. So but we try as much as possible to keep it like kosher, casual, just we'll be, because for that exact reason, we might want to leave early from a place or we might want to stay longer, depending on what it is.
Okay. All right. So I was trying to relate to you different communities you might want to possibly visit. I don't know if you want to hear about.
Yeah, I want to hear them. Tell me them.
All right. So another one that I'm thinking is probably an important one and I'm not sure how they're doing now, but I know when I visited them in 2005, they'd been around for like 30 years at that point. And it seems like whenever I meet somebody who's like, oh, I'm sick of all of this shit, and I just want to go someplace where life is easier and whatever, and it's like whatever their thing is, like, I got no place to go. And it's like, I always tell them, well, anybody can go to Alpha Farm. And so that's like west of Eugene, Oregon. Like, it's halfway to the coast, I think, if I remember correctly.
We're gonna be close to Eugene.
But the big thing is like anybody can go to Alpha Farm and they'll feed you. And it's I think it's I'm not sure if it's a shared income kind of a thing, but basically they've got like a little store, and they've got like I believe a little contract with the post office, and so everybody works a little bit every week, and everybody gets food, and there's like, I don't know, like 20 people living there, and they've got some funky things going on there, and but the thing is that they'll take in anybody, and so anybody who shows up and wants to be part of their community can show up, and it's like you'll be expected to do a little bit of work. I don't think it's 40 hours a week. What are we looking at? We're looking at.
I'm currently getting a inch of rain. This is my town right here.
Random weather update on what's going on with David.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just FYI. It's sunny in Montana.
Yeah.
So I thought there was a very fascinating story from there, and that folks were really nice. I had my kids with me, and a woman started sunbathing nude, and my daughter kind of started getting freaked out about that. And I had to have a little talk with her, like, what, your boobies scare you, huh? Afraid of boobies? And so I think it's like she'd never seen a woman sunbathing nude before, so she had to talk about it, is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look over there,
Boobies.
and so but
Well, I'm definitely going there now. So what?
the decision-making process is technically consensus,
Right.
but it sounds like there's a woman who lives there, and she wasn't there when I was there. And I think, if I remember correctly, her name is Carolyn. And apparently she's a Native American woman, so an Indian woman. And she has this, apparently, I've heard, this amazing presence. She is apparently a very intelligent woman, a very lovely woman. And then the way that she speaks is something where it's like she talks and stars appear above your head and you do whatever she says. So their consensus model.
That's a nice skill to have.
Yeah. And so their consensus model, as I'm interviewing these people, it kind of sounds a lot like pretty much we all concede to do whatever Carolyn wants.
Okay.
And that's basically their system, and which is a system that would work, right? So.
Oh yeah, if you have a god, and that god's there telling you what to do.
Now, much like how you're talking about a community near you, and but they might not want to be videoed because they got their own private thing going on.
I thought anybody was welcome.
Then no, at Alpha Farm, Alpha Farm is very open.
Okay.
Apparently, it seems like a lot of the people that live there hoped to someday be allowed to go to this semi-sister community, which no one's really allowed to go to. It's a very private thing, and they're full, and they're not accepting new people. But if there's ever an opening, then apparently they turn to the people at Alpha Farm to say, you know,
we take them.
We're going to take this one person,
right?
Because we like them the best.
Okay.
So it's but
that's kind of a good way to weed out the people that you do or do not want. Yeah.
Well, I think I got the impression that at Alpha Farm, a lot of people were coming and going, and that only Carolyn had been there a long, long time, and everybody else, it's like The longest person there had been there maybe 8 months or something like that.
Right.
And so that's okay. So there's Alpha Farm. Another one that's in the Eugene, Oregon area that's probably one of the most famous is going to be Lost Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're familiar with Lost Valley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of it. I haven't studied it or anything.
A lot of cool stuff there. Definitely worth stopping by to visit. They experienced some turnover issues, but I think they might have come up with why they have turnover issues and maybe mitigated some of that. So I think that they have officially left behind the consensus decision-making model, and I'm not sure if they went to sociocracy or holocracy, but I know very little from the last 5-6 years. But I would be curious. Go there, find out.
Get you some updates.
Yeah, I'd like to know. I've got. I mean, there's some very powerful stuff that and I've already shared some stuff about Lost Valley in the Smackdown. There's a great story, and so it's kind of funny. There's a guy that lived there when I was there, who's a great guy, and he teaches permaculture courses. His name is Rick Valley, but Lost Valley is in no way named after him or anything like that. It's just a coincidence. But he was charged as the land manager when he was there because he's a permaculture guy. And he's a really well-known permaculture guy and a great, excellent knowledge of plants. Wow, just a living, breathing encyclopedia. So anyway, he was in charge. So then it's an area that's a pretty moist area, and so a lot of the Douglas fir trees were dying from laminar root rot. And the solution is that where you've got 5 Douglas fir trees growing together, then what you'll do is you'll go and you'll cut down 3 or 4 of them, and then what's left standing is now probably going to survive the laminar root rot. It's just too many trees. So one day he's got his chainsaw and he's going to go out there and he's going to cut down some Douglas fir trees in order to save them from the laminar root rot. And then a woman saw him. Who's part of the community. And it's like, a chainsaw? What are you doing with a chainsaw? We're tree huggers here, You don't go and cut down trees like that. That's not okay. We have to have a full community meeting to talk about this. 8 months of community meetings happen. Oh. I mean, it's a consensus-based system, so that's not unusual.
Right.
So it's 8 months it took. And so then, in the end, the community reached consensus. It's okay to cut down these trees. However, what they're going to do is for each tree, there's going to be a ceremony to celebrate the life of the tree. So for the first tree, it was like a 3-hour ceremony.
Hopefully the ceremonies are people planting more trees.
Okay. I doubt that happened, but
okay.
I don't know. I wasn't there. For the first ceremony, it's a 3-hour ceremony. The second ceremony was 10 minutes. The third ceremony, nobody showed up, and so Rick just cut the tree. So
yep.
It's a fantastic lesson in consensus.
Yes.
And it's like all right. So there's a bunch of. So that was at Lost Valley, and Rick Valley is in a few of my YouTube videos because he's just such a super knowledgeable guy. And he taught a PDC there at Lost Valley, and the movie star Ellen Page attended a PDC that Rick Valley taught at Lost Valley.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So let's see. So there I've shared a few with you. I could probably sit here and think of a whole bunch more.
Ben says if you're coming through Northwest California, I'd love to show you my projects on the world's grandest hugelkultur in the old growth redwoods. Absolutely, Ben. Send me I don't know if Ben, are you on ThriveThru? If you are, just send me a private message on ThriveThru, and We'll get that worked out. Or email me or whatever.
I'd like to know the largest diameter log that he's using for Hugel.
Well, there you go. Ben, type, damn you, type. We'll find out.
At first, I thought it was the world's oldest hugel culture in the old growth redwoods, is what he was saying, but it's the grandest hugel culture. Either way, I'm interested, very interested. What is the oldest hugel culture? Of course, that's just be natural. That shit just happens.
There's slot
but,
stuff.
Yeah.
There is,
but intentional.
There is a thing in Seattle where
I've used 2 feet, but think it was too thick for the soil I had available.
they've got a sculpture park in Seattle, and one of the brand new things that you can see in the sculpture park is where they've taken a fallen log and they picked it up out of the forest, and then they moved it into Seattle, into this place where they present it so that you can come and stare at this old rotten log that, you know, was on the ground, and you can see all the different kinds of rot happening and things. So in a way, it's kind of a hugel culture, but not really.
I was more thinking the intentional, like an intentionally doing
Yeah.
hugel culture. What would be the oldest example of that? I imagine it's been that practice before it was coined. Hugel culture has been around for quite a while.
I would think Sepp Holzer's stuff is probably going to be the oldest one. I know that in 2005, when I got done with my PDC and we built a little tiny speck of a hugel culture bed at the PDC, then I got on Google and tried to Google hugel culture, and I found nothing. There's like one page, I got 3 matches, and in all 3 matches, it was just a word buried down deep in some huge article. So I wrote the very first internet article. Now, the word did appear in Toby Hemingway's book, which was published in 2001. And it was a little tiny mention off to the side. So it was like, I think it was in 2009 when I met Sepp Holzer, and he was talking about building hugel cultures much, much bigger than I did. But in 2005, I built a fuck ton of hugel culture beds.
All right, guys. That is the end of the show for those watching live. However, if you are a subscriber and in on the private messaging area, stick around. We're going to hang out for a couple more minutes and continue the conversation, but I hope you enjoyed the show. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you. Are we doing one next week? Probably not.
If we do, it's because you're here.
Yeah. But when we did the PDC ATC, we were way too busy.
That's true. And then the Innovators event is going to be going on at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do one where we talk about the stuff that's happening, you know, that's been happening. Because that's the thing that we haven't done enough of, is to talk about, like, what did we do at the PDC ATC this year? And so it would be kind of cool to do it. And it's like, I'm not one of the innovators. I'm just the giant doofus in overalls that hosts it.
Maybe we'll do something like every other day. We'll do a 10-minute. We'll just pop on for 10 minutes or something, talk about what happened.
And then send it to Jack?
Yeah. No. We'll just throw it on YouTube for everybody.
Okay. All right. If that's possible, I'm up for that.
All right, cool. All right, guys. So maybe we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Adios. Good to see y'all.
Oh, so Julia says that she missed most of it because, you know.
Newborn.
Yeah.
All right.
Paul, how many gappers do you have right now?
Well, we've been saying boots. And so, because it's a different kind of a program. Yeah. We have 5 boots